They told him joining was about brotherhood, tradition, opportunity. They never mentioned the price. Jacob Morris was out of work, out of money, and out of options, until a stranger offered him access to a world where doors always opened. At first, the benefits were real: a new job, a better life, everything he'd been chasing suddenly within reach. But every favor came with a cost. Every handshake, a hidden contract, and every secret he kept pulled him deeper inside the circle. They called it loyalty. He called it survival, until the day they asked him to cross a line he couldn't uncross. That's when Jacob learned the truth. Power isn't given freely, it's traded, piece by piece, for who you are. He wanted success. They gave him control, and then they reminded him control always belongs to the ones above you, because the lodge gives everything until it decides to take everything back. Jacob Morris had been unemployed for 8 months. His resume was strong, his interviews went well, but every job offer fell through at the last minute. Someone else got chosen, someone with fewer qualifications, someone with connections. Jacob didn't have connections, not the kind that mattered, not until he met Richard Crane at a networking event downtown. Richard was everything Jacob wanted to be: successful, confident, respected. He ran a consulting firm that worked with half the major companies in the city. When Jacob mentioned his job search struggles, Richard listened carefully. Really listened. Not the polite nodding most people did. Genuine interest. "You're talented," Richard said. "But talent isn't enough anymore. You need access. You need to be part of the right circles." Jacob had heard this before. The old boys' club. The invisible networks that decided who rose and who didn't. "How do I get access?" he asked. Richard smiled. "Join us. The lodge. We help our brothers. Always have. Always will." Jacob knew about Freemasons. Vaguely. Secret handshakes. Charity work. Old men in aprons. It seemed outdated, irrelevant. But Richard didn't look irrelevant. He looked powerful. "What does joining require?" Jacob asked. Richard handed him a business card. Lodge address on one side, meeting times on the other. "Come to an information session. Thursday night, 7 o'clock. See for yourself. No commitment, just curiosity." Jacob pocketed the card. "What do you get out of recruiting me?" Richard's smile widened. "Brothers who succeed make the whole lodge stronger. Your success becomes our success. We invest in each other. That's how it works." Thursday came. Jacob almost didn't go. It felt desperate, like admitting defeat, like he couldn't make it on his own merit. But 8 months of rejection had crushed his pride. He needed help, needed opportunity, needed whatever Richard was offering. The lodge was nicer than he expected. Modern building, professional atmosphere. Not the dusty relic he'd imagined. 20 men sat in rows, all ages, all backgrounds, all looking for the same thing Jacob was: belonging, advancement, power. The presentation was slick, professional. They talked about brotherhood, community service, personal development. All true, probably, but Jacob noticed what they didn't say. They didn't explicitly promise jobs or money or influence. They just showed slides. Brothers who'd become judges, CEOs, city council members. The message was clear without being spoken. Join us and doors open. Stay outside and you're on your own. After the presentation, Richard found Jacob. "What did you think?" Jacob chose his words carefully. "It sounds good, but I need specifics. What exactly do members get?" Richard gestured to a quiet corner. They sat. "Here's how it works. You join, you prove yourself trustworthy, you participate, volunteer, show commitment. Then, when you need something, you ask. Need a job? We know people hiring. Need a loan. We have brothers in banking, need legal help. We have lawyers, need political favors. We have connections." "That sounds like corruption," Jacob said quietly. Richard shook his head. "It's networking. It's helping people who've proven they'll help others. No different than college alumni networks or country clubs. Except we're more organized, more committed, and more effective. Jacob wanted to argue, wanted to say this was wrong, but he thought about his empty bank account, his mounting debt, his wasted potential. "What's the catch?" he asked. "Loyalty," Richard said simply. "When the lodge needs something from you, you deliver. When a brother asks for help, you provide it. When we call, you answer. That's the price. Absolute loyalty to the Brotherhood." Jacob considered this. "What kind of things would you need from me?" Richard smiled. "Depends on what you do, what skills you have, what positions you reach. Right now, nothing. You're the one who needs help. But someday, when you're successful, when you have influence, we'll remember. And we'll ask." Jacob thought about it for 3 days. The promise was tempting. The cost was vague. Loyalty sounded reasonable until you wondered what it meant in practice. But his rent was overdue. His credit cards were maxed. His options were running out. He called Richard. "I'm in. What's next?" Richard sounded pleased. "Excellent. First step is the application, background check, references, then an interview, then initiation. The whole process takes about 3 months, but I can expedite it. Have you ready in 6 weeks?" The application was extensive. Personal history, financial information, employment records, character references. They wanted to know everything. Jacob filled it out completely, honestly. He had nothing to hide. 2 weeks later, he got a call. Interview scheduled. The interview was strange. 3 older members, all successful. A retired judge, a bank executive, a real estate developer. They asked normal questions at first, background, goals, values. Then the questions got pointed. "If a brother asked you to falsify a document, would you?" the judge asked. Jacob hesitated. "That's illegal." The judge smiled. "Not all documents are legal documents. Employment references, recommendations, performance reviews. Would you exaggerate if it helped a brother?" Jacob saw the trap. "Say no and prove you're not loyal. Say yes and admit you're willing to lie. I'd help however I could within reason," he said carefully. The 3 men nodded. Good answer, apparently. "If you learned something damaging about a brother, would you keep it confidential?" the banker asked. "Depends on what it was," Jacob said. "If it was illegal or hurt someone, I'd have to consider reporting it." The 3 men exchanged glances. Wrong answer. "The Brotherhood requires absolute discretion," the developer said. "What happens in the lodge stays in the lodge. What you learn about brothers stays private, always. Can you commit to that?" Jacob felt the weight of the question. This was the real test. Could he keep secrets? Could he look the other way? Could he prioritize loyalty over ethics? He thought about saying no, walking out, finding another way, but he'd come this far, invested this much hope. "Yes," he said, "I can commit to that." The 3 men smiled. "Welcome to the Brotherhood, Jacob. Your initiation is in 2 weeks. The initiation was theatrical, blindfold, symbolic gestures, oaths about keeping secrets and helping brothers. Nothing sinister, nothing illegal, just ceremony. When it ended, Jacob was officially a Freemason. The congratulations felt genuine, the handshakes firm, the welcome warm. Richard pulled him aside afterward. "Now the real work begins. I've already made some calls, got you an interview. Marketing director position, good company, better pay. The hiring manager is a brother. You're practically guaranteed the job." Jacob felt a rush of relief. Finally, after 8 months, finally an opportunity. "Thank you. I don't know what to say." Richard squeezed his shoulder. "Say you'll remember this. Say when the lodge needs you, you'll be there. That's all we ask." Jacob nodded enthusiastically. "Absolutely. Whatever you need." Richard smiled. "Good, because we will need you, Jacob. Sooner than you think. Power isn't free, and the price always comes due. Jacob got the job, started 2 weeks later. The salary was better than he'd hoped. The position was challenging but manageable. His boss, the brother who hired him, was supportive. Life improved rapidly. Jacob paid off his debts, moved to a better apartment, started dating again. Everything he'd struggled with for 8 months disappeared. The lodge had delivered. The promise was real. But in the back of his mind, Jacob wondered, what would they ask for? When would the price be collected, and would he be able to pay it? He didn't have to wonder long. 3 months into his new job, Richard called. "We need a favor. Small thing, easy, but important." Jacob's stomach tightened. "What kind of favor?" Richard's voice was casual. "Too casual. Your company is bidding on a city contract. So is a competitor. That competitor's CEO is a brother. We need to make sure he wins. Can you help with that?" Jacob's mouth went dry. "How would I help with that?" Richard explained. And Jacob realized the price of power was higher than he'd imagined, much higher. Jacob had been a Freemason for 3 months. 3 months of security, 3 months of success, 3 months of believing the lodge's promise came without strings. Now, Richard was on the phone asking him to sabotage his own company's bid, asking him to betray the people who'd hired him, the people who trusted him. All for another brother, a man Jacob had never even met. "I don't have access to the bid documents," Jacob said, hoping that would be enough, hoping Richard would accept that limitation. "But you have access to the people who do," Richard replied smoothly. "Your boss, the finance team. You hear things, see things. All we need is information. What's your company bidding? What's their timeline? What's their strategy? Simple reconnaissance. Nothing illegal." Jacob's hands were shaking. "That's corporate espionage. I could lose my job, get sued, maybe prosecuted." Richard's tone hardened slightly. "Jacob, who got you that job? Who opened that door when every other door was closed?" "We did. The lodge did. Now we're asking for a small return on our investment. Information. That's all. No one will know it came from you. No one will trace anything back. We've done this 1,000 times. That phrase hit Jacob hard. 1,000 times. This wasn't unusual. This was routine. This was how the lodge operated. How power actually worked, not through merit or hard work, through manipulation, through brothers sharing information, tipping scales, rigging competitions. "What if I say no?" Jacob asked quietly. The silence on the other end was long, calculated. "Then you're not really a brother. You're just someone who took from the lodge and gave nothing back. And we remember those people. We remember very clearly. The threat was subtle but unmistakable. Say no and lose everything. The job, the connections, the protection, maybe worse." Jacob thought about his apartment, his new car, his rebuilt life. All of it depended on the lodge's goodwill. All of it could disappear with a few phone calls. "I need time to think," Jacob said. "You have 24 hours, Richard replied. "The bid submission is next week. We need information before then. Call me tomorrow with what you've learned." The line went dead. Jacob didn't sleep that night. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, weighing options, all of them bad. Help the lodge and betray his employer. Refuse and lose everything the lodge had given him. There had to be a third option, a way out, but every path he imagined led to consequences, consequences he couldn't afford. By morning, he'd made his decision, not because it was right, because it was survival. He went to work and paid attention, really paid attention, to conversations, to emails, to documents left on desks. He felt sick doing it, felt like a spy, a traitor. But he kept gathering information, the bid amount, the project timeline, the key selling points his company planned to emphasize, everything Richard wanted, everything that would give the competitor an advantage. By the end of the day, Jacob had enough. He called Richard from his car in the parking lot. "The bid is 2.3 million, Jacob said, his voice hollow, defeated. "They're emphasizing speed and local workforce, planning to promise completion 2 months ahead of schedule." Richard was pleased. "Perfect. Exactly what we needed. Our brother will adjust his bid accordingly. He'll come in slightly lower. Promise faster completion. Your company won't stand a chance. Well done, Jacob. The lodge appreciates your loyalty." Jacob wanted to vomit. Is this what membership means? Sabotaging employers? Betraying trust? Richard sighed, like he was talking to a child. "It means understanding how the world actually works. Your company will bid on other contracts, win other projects. This one loss won't hurt them. But winning this contract will help a brother feed his family, grow his business, stay strong. We take care of our own. That's not betrayal. That's brotherhood." 2 weeks later, Jacob's company lost the bid. His boss was frustrated, but not suspicious. "They undercut us by 50,000 and promised faster completion. Nothing we could do." Jacob nodded along, pretending to share the disappointment, pretending he hadn't caused it. The competitor who won was introduced at the next lodge meeting, Brother Marcus Sutton. He shook Jacob's hand, thanked him personally. "Richard told me you helped. I won't forget it. When you need something, call me. That's how this works." Jacob realized this was the system, an endless cycle of favors. Brothers helping brothers, information exchanged, influence traded, everyone complicit, everyone benefiting, everyone trapped. He'd thought joining the lodge would give him power. Instead, it had made him a tool, a resource to be used. But the benefits were real. A month later, Jacob needed legal help. Minor issue, traffic violation, potentially expensive. He mentioned it to Richard. The charges disappeared, no hearing, no fine, just gone. A brother in the DA's office had handled it. Another month, Jacob's sister needed a job. Fresh out of college, no experience, no connections. Jacob made one call to the lodge. Within a week, she had interviews at 3 companies, all with brothers in management. She got hired at the second one, good salary, benefits, career path. She thought it was her qualifications. Jacob knew better. The lodge had opened another door, used another connection, and somewhere, someone was keeping track. Someone was noting that Jacob's family had received help, that the debt was growing, the favors kept coming. Both ways. Jacob helped brothers. Brothers helped Jacob. Every exchange felt transactional, calculated, cold, but the results were undeniable. His career advanced faster than his peers. His connections multiplied. His influence grew. Within a year, he was promoted to senior director. Within 2 years, he was on the executive team, all because brothers in the right places made the right calls, said the right things, opened the right doors. But the requests grew too. More information sharing, more bid rigging, more looking the other way when brothers did questionable things. Jacob learned about insurance fraud, tax evasion, zoning violations, all committed by brothers, all protected by the lodge's wall of silence. He kept quiet, like he'd promised. Like loyalty demanded. But the weight grew heavier, the guilt more crushing. He was successful, powerful, connected, and completely compromised. One night, Jacob sat in his expensive apartment, surrounded by things the lodge had helped him afford, and he felt empty, hollow. He'd traded his integrity for security, his ethics for advancement, his soul for power. And the worst part? He couldn't go back, couldn't leave, couldn't expose what he knew without destroying himself. The lodge owned him now, completely, just like they owned every other brother, just like they'd owned members for generations. His phone buzzed, text from Richard. "Need to talk, important, tomorrow morning, coffee shop, 8 a.m. Jacob stared at the message. Another request coming. Another favor needed, another piece of himself he'd have to trade. He thought about ignoring it, blocking the number, disappearing. But he knew better. You don't ignore the lodge. You don't refuse the Brotherhood. Not if you want to keep everything they'd given you. Not if you want to stay safe, Jacob texted back. I'll be there. 2 words, simple, obedient, the only words he could say, because the price of power wasn't a one-time payment, it was a subscription, monthly, weekly, daily, forever. And Jacob had signed the contract the moment he joined, the moment he accepted their help, the moment he believed power could be given without cost. Now he knew better. Power always had a price, and the lodge always collected. Jacob had been a Freemason for 2 years. 2 years of favors given and received. 2 years of compromise. 2 years of telling himself it was worth it. Now he sat across from Richard at the coffee shop, knowing whatever came next would be worse than anything before. Richard's face was serious. No small talk, no pleasantries, just business. "We have a situation," Richard said. "A brother is in trouble, real trouble, and we need your help." Jacob's stomach dropped. "What kind of trouble?" Richard leaned forward, lowered his voice. "Brother Dennis Clark, real estate developer. He's been cutting corners on a major project downtown, building code violations, safety issues. The city inspector found problems, plans to shut down construction. Dennis stands to lose everything. Millions. His business, his reputation, his family's future." Jacob saw where this was going. "What does this have to do with me?" "Your company handles public relations for the city," Richard said. "You have relationships with city officials, access to the mayor's office. We need you to make this problem disappear, convince the inspector to look the other way, or get his supervisor to overrule him, or delay the inspection long enough for Dennis to fix the violations quietly." Jacob shook his head. "Those violations exist for a reason. Safety. If someone gets hurt because I helped hide them, I'm liable. We're all liable." Richard's expression hardened. "No one's going to get hurt. Dennis will fix everything. He just needs time. Time without inspectors breathing down his neck. Time without the media catching wind. That's all we're asking. Use your influence. Make some calls. Buy him 30 days. Jacob felt trapped. This isn't information sharing. This is obstruction. This is putting lives at risk. I can't do this. "You can," Richard said coldly, "and you will. Because 2 years ago, we got you a job, got your sister a job, made your legal problems disappear, made your life possible. You owe us. The lodge doesn't forget debts, Jacob, and we always collect." The threat was clear now. No subtlety, no pretense. Pay up or face consequences. Jacob's mind raced. What if I refuse? What happens then? Richard smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "Then we start making calls. Your boss learns how you really got hired. Learns about the bids you sabotaged, the information you leaked. Your sister loses her job. Your legal issues resurface. Every door we opened, we close. Every connection we made, we sever. And that's just the beginning. We have 2 years of dirt on you, Jacob. 2 years of favors you accepted. 2 years of compromises you made. You refuse us now. We bury you." Jacob felt sick. He'd known this was coming. Some part of him had always known. But hearing it stated so bluntly was different. The lodge wasn't a brotherhood. It was a trap, a system designed to ensnare people, get them dependent, get them compromised, then exploit them forever. "I need time to think," Jacob said. Richard checked his watch. "You have 48 hours. Dennis's situation is urgent. Make it happen or face the consequences. Your choice." Jacob left the coffee shop in a daze, drove home on autopilot, sat in his apartment staring at nothing. He'd spent 2 years convincing himself the small compromises were worth it, the information sharing, the minor ethics violations. But this was different. This was endangering public safety, protecting someone who'd broken laws that mattered, laws that kept people alive. Could he really do that? Could he live with himself if something went wrong? He thought about calling the police, exposing the whole thing, the lodge's corruption, the network of favors, the systematic manipulation, but he had no proof. No recordings, no documents, just his word against powerful men, men with resources, men with connections in law enforcement, men who'd protected each other for generations. They'd destroy him before he could expose them, make him look crazy, unstable, vengeful. No one would believe him. Jacob spent that night researching, looking for a way out, looking for protection. Whistleblower laws, immunity agreements, witness protection. Every option had problems. Every path required evidence he didn't have, or put him in immediate danger, or destroyed his life anyway. By morning, he'd accepted the truth. There was no good option. Only degrees of bad. Help the lodge and compromise further. Refuse and lose everything. Either way, he was trapped. The next day at work, Jacob forced himself to focus, forced himself to act normal. But his mind kept returning to the problem. Dennis Clark's building, the safety violations, the inspection that needed to disappear. Jacob had contacts in city government, could make calls, could apply pressure, could probably make this problem go away for 30 days. Long enough for Dennis to fix things, long enough to avoid immediate disaster. But what about next time? What about the favor after this? Where did it end? That afternoon, Jacob's boss called him into her office. Martha Reynolds, sharp, ethical, someone Jacob respected. "I need your advice on something," she said. "The mayor's office called, asked us to delay publishing a report on building code enforcement. Said it was a matter of timing, but something feels off. What do you think?" Jacob's blood ran cold. They'd already started, already applied pressure, already involved his company. "What report?" he asked. Martha showed him. Analysis of construction violations across the city. Dennis Clark's project was mentioned by name, listed as one of several serious cases requiring immediate attention. The report was scheduled to go public in 3 days, right when the inspection was supposed to happen. "The mayor's chief of staff suggested we hold it for a month," Martha said. "Said they need time to address the issues internally, but I think they want to bury it. What's your read?" This was the moment. Jacob could tell Martha the truth. Explain the lodge's involvement, expose the corruption, blow the whole thing open, or he could play along, support the delay, protect Dennis, protect himself, protect the lie he'd been living for 2 years. Martha was watching him, trusting his judgment, believing he'd give honest advice. "I think we should publish on schedule," Jacob heard himself say. "Transparency matters. If there are safety issues, the public deserves to know." Martha smiled. "That's what I thought too. I'll tell the mayor's office no. Thanks for confirming my instincts." She turned back to her computer. Conversation over. Jacob left her office feeling dizzy. He'd just defied the lodge, just refused their request, just guaranteed consequences. His phone buzzed. Text from Richard. "Heard your boss is publishing that report. Bad move, very bad move. We need to talk, now." Jacob ignored the text, went to the bathroom, locked himself in a stall. His hands were shaking. He'd crossed a line. Refused the lodge when they needed him. Chosen ethics over loyalty. Chosen honesty over self-preservation. It felt right and terrifying at the same time. His phone kept buzzing. More texts, then calls. Richard. Other numbers he didn't recognize. The lodge was panicking, scrambling. They'd expected compliance, expected Jacob to fall in line like always. Now they were realizing he wouldn't. Jacob turned off his phone, sat there in silence, thinking, planning. He couldn't go back to his apartment, they'd be waiting. Couldn't go to the police without evidence. Couldn't trust anyone connected to the lodge. He was alone, exposed, vulnerable, but he'd made his choice. For the first time in 2 years, he'd chosen right over easy. chosen integrity over security. It might cost him everything, probably would. But at least he could look at himself in the mirror. He left work early, went to a hotel across town, paid cash, used a fake name, sat on the bed planning his next move. He needed evidence, documentation, proof of the lodge's corruption, proof he could trade for protection, immunity, safety. There had to be records, emails, financial transactions. Other brothers who'd been compromised and wanted out. Jacob spent the night making notes, building a strategy, preparing for war, because that's what this was now. War. Jacob had declared it the moment he told Martha to publish that report, the moment he chose the public's safety over the lodge's interests. The lodge wouldn't forgive, wouldn't forget. They'd come after him with everything they had, every connection, every resource, every dirty trick. But Jacob was done being their tool, done being their puppet, done paying the price for power he'd never really had. His phone, still off, sat on the nightstand. Tomorrow he'd turn it back on, face the consequences, start fighting back. Tonight he just sat in the dark hotel room, thinking about the last 2 years, the choices he'd made, the lines he'd crossed, the person he'd become. The lodge had promised power. They'd delivered comfort, security, advancement. But the price? The price was his soul. And Jacob had finally decided it was too high. Jacob turned his phone back on at 7 a.m. 32 missed calls, 57 text messages, most from Richard, some from other lodge members, a few from numbers he didn't recognize. The messages escalated from concerned to threatening. "We need to talk. You're making a mistake. Last chance to fix this. You have no idea what you've done." Jacob deleted them all. He had bigger problems now. He needed evidence. And he knew where to find it. Richard kept meticulous records. Jacob had seen them once during a lodge event at Richard's house, a home office with filing cabinets, computers, years of documentation. Richard was organized, careful, but also arrogant. He never expected betrayal from within, never thought a brother would turn. That arrogance was Jacob's opportunity. He just needed to get inside, get the records, get out. Simple in theory, dangerous in practice. Jacob spent the morning planning. Richard worked downtown, left his house empty during business hours. Security system, but Jacob knew the code. Richard had given it to him months ago. "In case of emergency," he'd said. "Brothers help brothers, even with house sitting." That trust was about to be weaponized. Jacob drove to Richard's neighborhood at 10 a.m., parked 2 blocks away, walked casually, like he belonged, like he had permission. The house was quiet, empty. Jacob punched in the security code. The system beeped acceptance. He was inside, heart pounding, hands sweating. This was burglary. Breaking and entering, criminal activity. But what the lodge had done was worse. What they'd made him do was worse. He moved quickly to Richard's office. The filing cabinets were locked. Jacob searched the desk, found keys in the bottom drawer. Third key opened the cabinets. Inside were folders, dozens of them, each labeled with a brother's name. Jacob found his own, opened it. Everything was there, his application, background check, notes from his interview, but also other things. Records of every favor, every compromise, every questionable action, documented, dated, signed. This wasn't just record keeping, this was insurance, blackmail material, control. Jacob took photos with his phone, every page, every document. He found Dennis Clark's folder. Building violations documented in detail, notes about payoffs to inspectors, bribes to city officials, all in Richard's handwriting, all carefully recorded. Jacob photographed everything. Then he found something worse, a folder labeled Enforcement Actions. Inside were records of brothers who'd refused, who'd tried to leave, who'd threatened to expose the lodge. Most of the entries ended the same way. Matter resolved, brother compliant. But 3 entries were different. Brother deceased. Incident closed. Jacob's blood went cold. 3 dead brothers, all who'd opposed the lodge, all within the last 15 years. 1 car accident, 1 suicide, 1 home invasion, all ruled accidental or unrelated. But seeing them grouped here, seeing them labeled as enforcement, Jacob understood. The lodge didn't just destroy careers, they destroyed lives, permanently. He photographed those pages with shaking hands. This was murder, conspiracy, RICO charges, federal crimes. This was everything he needed. His phone buzzed. Text from Richard. I know you're in my house, Jacob. Security system sends alerts to my phone. You have 5 minutes to leave before I call the police. Or we can talk. Your choice. Jacob's heart stopped. Trapped. Caught. But he had the photos, had the evidence. That's what mattered. He ran for the door, got outside, saw Richard's car pulling into the driveway, blocking his escape. Richard stepped out, calm, smiling, dangerous. Going somewhere? Richard asked. Jacob backed up. I have everything, all your files, all the evidence. I'm taking it to the FBI. Richard laughed. No, you're not, because if you do, you go down too. Every favor you facilitated, every bid you rigged, every law you broke. It's all documented. You're as guilty as anyone. You turn us in, you turn yourself in. Are you really willing to go to prison to hurt the lodge? Jacob hadn't thought about that. Hadn't considered he was implicating himself. The evidence cut both ways. Proved the lodge's corruption, but also proved his participation, his complicity, his guilt. I'll take immunity, Jacob said. Turn state's evidence. Testify against all of you. Richard shook his head. You think we don't have brothers in the FBI? In the U.S. Attorney's Office? You think we've operated this long without protection at every level? You're naive, Jacob, dangerously naive. Then I'll go public, Jacob said. Media, social media, everywhere. Let the court of public opinion decide. Richard's smile faded. And we'll destroy you, discredit you, show the world every compromise you made, every law you broke, make you look like a disgruntled ex-member making false accusations. Your family will suffer, your sister will lose everything, your mother, your friends, everyone connected to you. We'll burn it all down. Is that really what you want? Jacob felt the trap closing. Every option led to destruction, his own or theirs, but probably both. The lodge had been building this system for generations, protected at every level, insulated against exposure. One brother couldn't bring them down, one betrayal couldn't topple the network, but maybe he could damage them, hurt them, make them pay a price, even if he paid one too. I'm willing to risk it, Jacob said. Are you? Richard studied him, calculating. You've changed. 2 years ago you were desperate, weak. Now you're stupid and brave. That's dangerous, for both of us. He pulled out his phone. I'm going to make a call to the council, the senior brothers. They'll decide what to do with you, what price you pay for this betrayal. But Jacob, understand something. Whatever happens next, you brought this on yourself. You broke your oath, betrayed the Brotherhood. There are consequences for that. Jacob ran, didn't wait for Richard to make the call, didn't stay to hear what the council would decide. He ran to his car, drove. No destination, just away. His phone rang constantly. He ignored it. Drove to the FBI field office downtown, walked inside, asked to speak to an agent, any agent, about organized corruption, about murder, about everything. They put him in a room, made him wait. An agent came in, young, professional, skeptical. I'm Special Agent Sarah Chen, she said. Jacob recognized the name. The developer from the story Richard had told, the woman whose project the lodge had destroyed. She joined the FBI afterward, investigating corruption. And now she was sitting across from Jacob. I know about the lodge, she said quietly. I've been investigating them for 3 years, ever since they killed my development project, ruined my career. I know what they do. what they are. But I can't prove it. Not enough to bring charges. Can you help me prove it? Jacob pulled out his phone, showed her the photos. Hundreds of them. Documents, records, evidence. Sarah's eyes widened. This is it. This is everything. Where did you get this? Jacob told her. Breaking into Richard's house, stealing the documents, fleeing. Sarah nodded slowly. That's a problem. Illegally obtained evidence might not be admissible in court, but it gives us direction, names, dates, transactions. We can investigate legally now, build a case. You just handed us a roadmap. What happens to me? Jacob asked. Sarah was honest. You'll probably face charges for your participation. Your cooperation will help. Might get you probation instead of prison. Might. But your life as you knew it is over. Your career, your reputation, everything. You understand that? Jacob nodded. He'd understood that the moment he defied the lodge, the moment he chose right over safe. I understand. But at least the lodge goes down too. Sarah smiled. Maybe. They're powerful, connected. This will be a fight. But yes, with your testimony and these documents, we have a chance. A real chance. She stood. I need to bring in my supervisor, get authorization to start a formal investigation. You'll need to stay here, protective custody until we can secure you properly. The lodge will come after you, hard. You know that, right? Jacob knew, had known since he walked out of Richard's house with the evidence. I know, but I'm done running, done hiding, done being their puppet. The investigation took 8 months. Jacob testified before grand juries, gave depositions, wore a wire in meetings with brothers trying to threaten him back into silence. Sarah and her team built a case, followed the evidence, made arrests. Richard, Dennis, the worshipful master. 15 high-ranking brothers charged with racketeering, corruption, conspiracy, murder. The trials would take years, but the lodge's power was broken, exposed, destroyed. Jacob pled guilty to his participation, got 2 years probation, community service. His career was over, his reputation destroyed. His sister wouldn't speak to him. She'd lost her job, lost her opportunities, blamed Jacob for everything. His mother was ashamed. His friends abandoned him. He lived in a small apartment, worked part-time jobs, rebuilt from nothing. Again. But this time, without the lodge's help. Without shortcuts, without compromises. 1 year later, Jacob sat in a coffee shop, reading the newspaper. The lodge had been dismantled, assets seized, members scattered. Some went to prison, some cut deals, some fled. The system that had controlled the city for generations was gone. Not completely. Networks like that never fully died, but damaged, weakened, exposed, and that was something. Sarah Chen had been promoted, made supervisor. She'd built her career on taking down the lodge. The case that had destroyed her originally became the case that defined her. Jacob's phone rang, unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Hello? Silence. Then breathing. That slow, familiar breathing. Then a voice, cold, angry, dead. You took everything from us, everything. Did you really think there wouldn't be consequences? Did you really think you were safe? Jacob recognized the voice. Richard, calling from prison. I'm not afraid of you anymore, Jacob said. You have no power, no control. You're done. Richard laughed, bitter, harsh. The lodge is bigger than me, bigger than this city, bigger than one investigation. We've existed for centuries. We'll exist for centuries more. You won a battle, Jacob, not the war. And someday, when you least expect it, when you think you're safe, we'll remember. The Brotherhood never forgets, and we always collect our debts, always. The line went dead. Jacob sat there, phone in hand, staring at nothing. Richard was right about one thing. The lodge was bigger than one city, one network, one group of corrupt brothers. It existed everywhere, in every city, every state, every country. Some lodges were legitimate, some weren't, and telling the difference from the outside was impossible. Jacob had damaged one branch, but the tree still stood, still grew, still offered power to desperate people, still collected payment from those who accepted. But Jacob had done what he could, exposed what he'd seen, paid the price for his choices, both the bad ones and the good ones. He'd learned the truth the hard way. Power wasn't free. Shortcuts had costs. Brotherhood without ethics was just organized crime in fancy dress. And the price of power? The price was always higher than they told you, always more than you expected, always paid in pieces of yourself you could never get back. Jacob finished his coffee, stood up, walked out into the sunlight, free, broke, alone, but free. No longer owned by the lodge, no longer controlled by fear, no longer paying a price for power he'd never really had. The empty promise had cost him everything, but in losing everything, he'd found something the lodge could never give him, his integrity, his conscience, his soul. And those things were worth more than any favor, any connection, any power. Those things were priceless.